And we are live.
All right, what's going on, fellow park enthusiasts? This is Justin from Park Geeks, and we are back from Halloween Horror Nights.
Woo!
I'm here with Kurt and Daniel, and this was Daniel's very first Halloween Horror Nights. And because of that, he is going to be piloting tonight's streamcast. So, Daniel, take it away.
All right, all right. Whew. Um, First of all, I just want to preface this is my first full Hornets experience. I was at the event a couple times before, but this is the first time I went with friends. I got to see everything and really soak in the entire Halloween spirit. So I just want to start off with just general first reactions. Just the event. First off, I'm glad that there was very little issue with the whole stay and scream area. It was pretty easy to get to one place to another and kind of choose the house you wanted to go to. Although if I were to do it again, I probably would line up for the Halloween house first because that line got really crazy. So if I were to do
Dude,
it again,
yes.
yeah, if I were to do it again, that would be house number one, and I'd probably be the only house I do. Like the very beginning of the night and the very end of the night because it's just intense. So I like that stay and scream structure. Um, I thought overall the set design and the costumes, especially around the scare zones, were just phenomenal. Just walking through there, there's a lot of great effects. We'll go through each scare zone in a bit, but I was very impressed with that. Nothing looked super cheesy or out of place. Like everyone was definitely in character and having a great time, and just the people there, like everyone, from what I can tell, was mostly behaving and taking pictures and just really soaking it in. And people generally scared and generally having these feelings of shock, fun, and just terror all around the place. So um, I really felt like it was Spirit Halloween, and I can already tell right now. This will be an event I will certainly want to do annually because I've been missing out for so long. And as long as I have, you guys or just other friends or like, there's a lot of people that really want to do this experience. So having to do it this year was amazing. The way we did it, Express Pass, great idea. Um, the only I guess major I want to say before starting it is just yeah, you got to come in well rested because I clocked myself at 15 miles and I was dead the following day, and I went to IOA the next day. So I walked 24, 25 miles in a span of 2 days. Go me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
lot of walking spread out across the entire park, and you're going through all the queue lines, and you got to do some amount of crisscrossing back and forth across the park to see the shows and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
It adds up.
And I'm glad our express passes they got us in the regular line queue, so we literally had the whole thing to our disposal and no stress. We just went where we went, and yeah. So that said, what were your all initial opening thoughts before I move on to talking about scare zones?
All right, Kurt, you go first.
Oh well, I've been many times, so it was all. I thought it was all really good. It was nice to be back. This is the first time I've been back for Halloween Horror Nights since before the pandemic, so it's been quite a few years. Really happy to be back again. Get back to see it all because there's nothing else like Halloween Horror Nights at Orlando. It's like the biggest, and I think so far it's the best event I found for this type of stuff. As far as quality of the sets, quality of the houses, and all that stuff. I don't think anything tops it. I'm just always really happy to see all the work they put into it, and I just get to experience the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah, for me, I definitely had fun, but I do have some criticisms with it, which we'll discuss later.
Yes.
But don't get me wrong, I still had fun. Okay, I did. Uh, Despite the issues that I had with this year's events, I still enjoyed the houses. I still enjoyed the sets from the scream zone, from the scare zones. And if you saw our uploads, you know that Daniel and I had a very interesting sandwich that night
Yes.
that I would gladly have again.
Yeah, that alone made me want to just splurge and like try and get fat of all the food there because everyone raves about the food. So hopefully, if I go again this year, that'll become my focus on my favorite houses. But otherwise, um, there's other priorities when you're at Halloween Horror Nights. There's just so much to do. But
Yeah, Kurt doesn't quite get the appeal of fried treats. uh, what we had was a deep fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich with maple chili syrup, and to Kurt, it just feels like stuff like that, like melted Oreo, like fried Oreos or Twinkies. To him, it just tastes like a donut. But
Yeah, I've tried.
it's
I've tried all those other things. It just like tastes like a donut to me. I don't know.
I just think for the fact that it just like it melts in your mouth
Mm-hmm.
is what's so appealing to it, and it adds a bit of a crunch the outer layer. But yeah, that was. I didn't expect that to be good.
Me
I did
neither.
not.
It sounded weird, but hey, you find great inspiration in the weirdest of places. So kudos to the chef.
Now, one thing though, before we begin, just know that none of us partook in the specially themed drinks or other food products. None of us drink,
No.
and we would much rather, get more bang for our buck with food outside the park. I'm sure the foods they make are good, but a lot of us don't have that kind of money,
Yeah.
so we won't be discussing those topics here. But with that said, Daniel, start us off.
All right. So we're gonna look at these scare zones first, and we're gonna kind of go in order of the site, and then I'll give my ranking of them a little bit. Afterwards. I'll do a different approach with the houses. So first up, we have the Horrors of Halloween. It's the very first scare zone you see when you enter the front gate, and immediately when I walked in an area, like I was really, really, really impressed the way they handled the great old Pumpkin Lord over there. I kind of wish in state. I kind of wish in kind of interact with him. Just yeah, Pumpkin Lord. There he is. There he is. I mean, would you consider him an icon? I guess I don't know, but um, the Pumpkin Lord and just the whole general scenery, small but effective, and a great way to introduce people to Horror Nights. That was kind of a big sort of scare zones. We didn't spend much time there. I kind of wish we did, and just kind of soak it in, see what else he does. He breathed fire, like he really got involved with the audience. I thought that was a very very strong scare zone to open a park. So effective despite its short length. Guys,
Yeah, it's too short. There's not enough there. There needs to be more stuff to explore. I mean, the best scare zones are the ones you get to explore a little bit.
hmm
Mm. Yeah. With that one, normally like the past few years, like when they do a scare zone in the front, I recall like they would actually have like more set pieces, but this was just the Pumpkin Lord, that awning or whatever that structure was,
yeah,
and the scare actors. That was it.
Yeah, it was really
So
short.
yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. The actor playing the Pumpkin Lord did a great job. The pyro is always a nice touch, and when you can actually taunt the fans like that, it's a lot of fun. But I think we can all unanimously agree. Yeah, it was too short. That's our big issue with it.
yep, short, but again, it's effective. I think it did its purpose, and hopefully they can expand upon it. Um, and maybe a future scare zone or maybe its own house. I think it had its own house, if I'm not mistaken. Um, did it like a couple years ago? I'm not sure. I don't know if the Pumpkin Lore was something brand new this year, but it certainly was a focus. Um, anyway, we'll move on to our next scare zone. Unless you had any more thoughts? All right. So next scare zone, the Scarecrow Cursed Soil Scare Zone. So this is right by the Halloween Horror Makeup Show near Central Park, where we have Ghoulish taking place that night as well. And that was a scare zone we walked through during the day, but we also kind of touched upon it a bit at night. And I mean, I think with any of the scare zones, it's definitely better at night. And yeah, I found that scare zone to be yeah, pretty average, I'd say. The actor playing the Scarecrow right at the base definitely got me because just the way they held him still and just spook people. Sometimes they don't even react, but their timing was good. But it was kind of easy to see everything, even at dark. You kind of see the people coming out the corners, the blind side. Some fog effects. Music was pretty fun and good. I think the costumes are probably the weakest at that scare zone. It's just rotten vegetables. Um, but other than that, it was yeah, it's just a good transition from one area of the park because they had a lot of houses in the back of the park towards the front of the park. So that's all I have to say about the Scarecrow Zone. What about you guys?
Yeah, the only thing I wish that walkway was wider because that's a really busy walkway and there's just I think just the volume of people walking through there because that's the only way to get to that along that side of the park. It's the only pathway. I think having too many people in there kind of spoils it a bit, in my opinion. I think it would be better if it wasn't so packed with people all the time. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe this is something that only I noticed, but for me, I wish the lighting was a bit better because uh, they did actually have other decorations. Like they actually had what looked like people who were sacrificed on pikes and turned into scarecrows. But those were a little hard to see. The other thing too is that I would have liked to have seen a bit more interactive elements in because say like you see like a flower and you go to pick it and like you hear some scream go off as soon as you pick up the flower because I just think with the vegetation that's right there that is perfect for a scare like that. You
Hmm.
don't even necessarily need an actor, you just need to have a just some like a scare actor who's like already in the one of those set pieces keeping an eye on it, then press a button as soon as someone gets near it.
Right.
It's like something like that I think would have added a bit more to it. But while we're on the topic of scare zones, let me ask you guys this because I saw someone complain about this. They said that there was too many people taking pictures.
In that scare
I
zone,
didn't.
or just in general,
I didn't do-
I think just in general.
people were filming a lot, but they weren't like. I've heard like a couple. I heard the staff kind of talk to the people like, "Hey, don't use flash." But that was pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. Flash and video lighting is obviously obnoxious, but I don't
Yeah,
think they
but
were taking pictures.
yeah, I think these people were just talking about pictures in general. I'm like, you're kidding
Yeah.
me, right? That's like going to a concert and getting kicked out for taking a picture. That's
Yeah,
like the
Yeah,
biggest compliment you can get.
people want to record
yeah. I
it.
think
I,
you should be able to take pictures.
yeah, I just thought that argument was stupid. But anyway, let's keep going.
All right, so our third scare zone is Sweet Revenge. This is the largest scare zone. It takes place just beyond the New York area, in between that and San Francisco. And this is basically a scare zone that was very chaotic. There's a lot of kid actors and adult actors kind of roaming around. I feel like this was the least scary of the zones, but I feel like it was just cool to walk through. Just the general chill, creepy vibe. The floats going around. There's kind of a story to it that was really sinister. So I feel like this was a scare zone that was way more impressive the more you read into it. Um, but yeah, there wasn't really that much. It's just you only get as much out of that scare zone as you going up to talk with the people on the stilts or the people walking around with the trick or treat buckets and just kind of messing with them and getting in spirit. So um, I'm not sure if children were prominently featured in other scare zones before, but I think it was a good touch and just a good way to twist something that's probably the tamest part of Halloween, trick or treating, and to make it a bit more creepier. Um, those floats they look pretty good though. I think they just kind of spruced up the Mardi Gras ones. That's all I was thinking about walking through there. Which I don't blame a company for reusing assets. Anything to save budget, as long as the
Oh
quality
yeah,
product's there.
yeah,
So that's just me. Like I thought, yeah, it was tame scare zone, but I think it probably deserves a bit more credit than what people would give it walking through it.
yeah. I think it was. I think it was too tame. I think it was. It was also sparse because this is like the opposite of the last one. This is an enormous, wide street and area, and everything was like really sparse, and it really seemed. I don't know. I just couldn't really get into this one at all.
Hmm.
Didn't really seem much. There wasn't enough going on. It was just too much space and not enough happening.
Yeah, that was one of my big issues with Horror Nights as a whole this year. Was I thought it was a bit too kiddish. With this scare zone, yeah, definitely dived into that. It looked like the float was just a reused asset from Mardi Gras, which, if done right, fine. But
Yeah,
this
I don't care
still,
about
yeah, it's. I mean, it still reminded me of Mardi Gras in some way. But again, I just thought it was too kid friendly.
Hmm.
And for one thing that Universal was always known for is just being the sort of more edgier theme park, or at least being not being afraid to go at least into PG-13 territory, heck even R for that matter. But with this, I just felt like this was a bit too kid friendly, and like the only like set dressings I saw was just the float and this sacrifice scare zone thing. Now, granted, they had some few more pieces down the road, but yeah, there's all the space, and they didn't do a whole lot with it.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to be understanding and charitable that because yeah, inflation has hit these theme parks.
Yes.
So but even then, and I'll discuss a bit more later, I just think it was a bit too kiddish.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
it just wasn't. I just didn't think it was that interesting. I mean, it's basically kids trick or treating, and they occasionally threaten you with a knife or something, or a mallet, or whatever they are, an axe or something, and that's about it. Okay,
Mhm.
great.
yeah, just nothing special. All right, so our fourth scare zone will be Conjure the Dark. So just ahead of Sweet Revenge. Conjure Dark is basically what I would describe as kind of like a weird, like ghoulish metal concert, I guess. But yeah, that because yeah, I saw like amps on the sideway. I saw people in like ghoulish masks, like kind of walking out and scaring you. But the centerpiece of it, which I thought was really cool, was this like sorceress around this big cauldron, and she was just trying to do her magic, appeal to the crowd, just pull some creepy things and props. Um, Admittedly, I think that was also my second regret. I just like Pumpkin Lord, I probably should have just stood there and just soak in that part of the scare zone. That's really the highlight. I think you saw a bit more than I did, Kurt. Because
Yeah, well, I went multiple nights. So I stood there and watched it quite a bit. Actually, the routine that the sorceress does on stage goes on for quite some time.
oh
Yeah,
man,
it's broken up into little set. There's a bunch of little 2 or 3 minute segments
yeah,
that she does, and I don't think I actually saw all of them. There's a bunch of them, and before it loops back and repeats.
yeah,
So it's actually very interesting. So that one, I like that scare zone because they had had the actors, doing the jump scares as people go on by, but you also had this little show you could watch at the same time. You can hang out and spend 2 or 3 minutes, watching, the sorceress do the invocation,
hmm
calling up the evil spirits and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was kind of fun. I thought that was entertaining, and you got heavy metal music going on at the same time.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is my bread and butter. I mean, I love it when they can actually when they have an actor up there who's actually messing with the crowd, screwing with them. It just adds a bit more, I guess you could say, flair to it. And like I said, I am the heavy metal guy, so I definitely stayed in the area. That was probably my favorite scare zone. Uh, Plus, of course, making sure that the screams and the amps for when the scare actors come out had to be on par
yeah,
with the metal music. But it never felt too loud. That's one thing I definitely noticed with metal concerts is that if they're too loud, you just want to plug your
hmm
ears and just walk through and not even go through it. So, major props with the sound. I gotta give them that. And of course, the sorceress doing her thing was just great.
Yeah,
So I would have to say that was definitely my favorite scare zone for this year.
that was a good one.
yeah.
Mhm.
It was a good one. Just it makes me want to come back and see it. So if I do go back, I might poke some friends about it, but yeah, that'll definitely be just a scare zone and one other, which we'll get to that I just want to really take my time with. Maybe a good 15, 20 minutes. Just look, take pictures, interact, do everything that it should offer. Anyway, the final scare zone is Graveyard Deadly Unrest. This is right at the Hollywood section of the park near the Born Stuntacular and the Hollywood Makeup Show and the diner. And I found this scare zone probably be my favorite in terms of set design and costume. Like just walking through there, the music was on point, the fog effects were on point, the scares were great, and just things. It just felt like a very dynamic zone, and you can't even tell from it during the day because the day is like just a bunch of weirdly placed tombs and little alcoves. But at night, the way it's supposed to be designed, this is how you do minimal with. This is how you bring out the most of minimal sets, and I found a Scare Zone to be really really good, and I again just like with Conjure Dark and Horrors of Halloween, I just kind of wish I took more of my time in there. Yeah, so that's basically my
Yeah,
thoughts on that Scare Zone.
yeah, I like that. I like that one a lot. I always like it's a good old traditional haunted graveyard thing. I mean, that's a classic. Uh, I think you got to have one of those at Halloween, right? There's
Yeah,
always the haunted graveyard. I thought the actors and the costumes were great, and it was long too. There's a lot to, like I said before, there's stuff to explore. There's different things going on, different actors, a little stage kind of thing in the middle with some people up there, doing some whatever the hell they were doing. I don't really know what they were doing. They were kind of making threatening moves and stuff and posing. Um, I enjoyed that one. I thought the lighting was good and the effects were good. The actors were good. I had fun on that one.
Yeah, that one's a close second for me. What I liked about that one is, yeah, you see the little set pieces and you can tell that, where the hiding spot is. But these actors did something a little bit different. They didn't hide in the hiding spot. They hid behind the sets.
Yeah.
So even when you go like, okay, that's where they're supposed to jump out, they
Mm-mm.
come out from a different direction. So they figured out a way to misdirect people and still scare you. So major props for that. So absolutely, that was a fantastic scare zone. And again, for how long it is,
Yes.
Yeah.
the longer you can actually keep this going, the better.
Yeah.
And as you said, there's stuff to explore. There's characters to see. The fog and the music was great, and they even take the diner and have it say "die in." Okay, I love that.
You love to see that
Anyway,
from horror movies. But major props to the scare actress who was in the statue costume, like the one towards like the end, towards the front of the park. Like that lighting and just the way she moved, that was good. I just wanted to look at her all day, just on
yeah,
point.
if only the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who had their own scare zone.
If it,
I would have loved to have seen that.
I would have been pretty afraid at that point. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, but
It's
they
like,
can
wait.
never, but they can never move while you're looking at them, though. That's the thing.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, so what are we moving on to next there, Daniel?
Just briefly, overview, just rankings, real quick. So if I were to go through them 1 through 5, worst scare zone, Street Revenge. I think are unanimous there. Then would be, to me, Horrors of Halloween. Pumpkin Lord saves that from being the worst, but still effective. Cursed Soil, barely beyond that. Then Conjure the Dark, and then finally Graveyard Deadly Unrest. I think that's
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
order.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's obviously the metal one, and then the one we just discussed. That's my second. The Scarecrow, that's the third. Uh, Sweet Treats, obviously the last one, and
Yeah.
the
Pumpkin Lord.
the final one is the fourth one.
Yep. Cool.
Alrighty, sweet.
So-
Yeah, that is our official ranking for this year's Scare Zones.
Yep.
So, Daniel, what's next?
Now we're going to talk about the live entertainment. So we have 2 shows this year: the Lagoon show, known as Ghoulish: A Halloween Tale, and the live actor show, which is at the previous Fear Factor stage, Halloween Nightmare Fuel Wildfire. So I'd say, well, let's talk about Ghoulish first. Let's talk about that light show by the Lagoon. So that show, honestly, I wasn't expecting much from the show because the Lagoon show at Universal, to me, kind of pales with what I've seen a bit from the World of Color at like California Adventure. I've seen snippets of that,
Right.
but I can tell they put a lot of effort in this show, strictly with the way they use all the projection mapping, all of the fog effects, all of the music. I think nothing felt out of place. Um, yeah, it was a very, I guess, family friendly theme, very traditional Halloween stuff in there, but it didn't really
Yeah.
bother me. It didn't really shoehorn in a lot of the IP except for like some of the weekend songs. I think it was a pretty good length. I think the music was pretty catchy. I think it had a good mixture of both pop and classic Halloween songs and just stuff they can kind of dance to a little bit. And I think there's ample space at the Central Park location where you can get a lot of people in there. I'm not sure how true that is on a very busy night, or even how the view on the other side of the lagoon is. Because if you can't get in there, like, is the show the same? I don't think it is. I think you miss out on a lot of the show if you viewed it from the other side of
Yeah.
the lagoon.
Yeah,
Um,
you would.
But from where we were standing, and I think anywhere along Central Park, you would have gotten a great view. And yeah, nothing felt fuzzy or like it was hard to see. Like I think everything came out very clean, very clear, and at a good time. It was just a good, solid, enjoyable time. I'll definitely watch it again. I think it's even something my parents would enjoy, even though they would never go to this event. But if they had to, if they had to do one thing, that would be the one thing I'd recommend, and they had no problem with it. So
Yeah. Right.
that's me.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said. It's kind of World of Color light. If for anybody who's seen World of Color, this is kind of a scaled down version of that. It's good technology. Obviously, if it had the full blown, lagoon the way World of Color is, it would be even better. But it's not bad for a short show like this. Like you said, it was a little campy, kind of, down more towards probably the most family friendly thing at the entire event.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of veering into a little bit of silliness, kind of the 50s cartoons or 40s cartoons, even kind of stuff. But yeah, it was enjoyable to watch. As I mentioned before, I think the best thing about the show is probably the only thing you can do that you don't have to stand in line for.
Yeah.
You can
Absolutely.
literally just walk up, a couple minutes before showtime, and you can get a pretty good viewing spot and see the show. So it's kind of like a low hassle kind of thing.
Yeah, this goes back to what I said about this year's motif being a bit too kiddish. But regardless of that, the effect is still a lot of fun to watch. I mean, while I've never seen what's it called, World of Color?
World of Color, yeah.
Yeah, while I've never seen it, at least in person, the effect is still really cool to see. The fact that they make this like screen of water, they put a projection on there, and it'll even go onto the sets that are behind
Yes.
it. I thought like that's still fun to watch. It is. So again, while I didn't like the motif, it's really hard for me to hate it.
Yeah.
It's still cool to see.
It's well
It
made,
was fun.
and it's
It was
definitely
fun.
something people can get behind. Just it's a good fallback from all the scares. But again, we'll get to that with the houses and stuff. So yeah, we'll recommend to anyone that goes to Halloween HGN this year. So the other show, Halloween Nightmare Fuel Wildfire. So there's a little bit of going in. I kind of knew from other people that it was going to be a show that was kind of reused from last year, but I'm going to set that aside and just focus on with what I saw. The show itself, certainly, certainly seemed like a show that had a lot. First of all, it had a lot of good effects in there. I think the execution of it was pretty good. I think
Oh, yeah.
all the actors on the stage were really into it. It was very well polished. The music choices, they're pretty cool, and the crowd was totally into it. So I can get beyond that. That's why I'm glad you guys somebody bring earplugs. That definitely kind of helped. And also, I was able to listen a bit to more of the music and more of the effects on screen. So there was a lot going on, a lot of pyro. They weren't kidding with Wildfire. There was like a pyro fet every 30 seconds, fire dancing and flame jets, and oh man, it was like a slice out of hell, I guess, in that point.
Yeah,
And
this is the closest thing to Kiss having an attraction at an amusement park.
yeah. And but regardless, I felt confused. Like, how did this relate at all to the current theme? It just kind of felt like a self-isolated thing. Um, I don't get how the theme of nightmares relates to Never Go Alone. Um, it just seems to be more spectacle, I guess, overall than actual substance. But for me, I'm easily entertained in that sense. So as long as the product is just good, and they got me with a couple of effects, like with the way they swap the bodies and how they escape certain sets and scenes, or um, how they handle someone playing with fire in different ways. It was well done, but I can't really point to any climactic scene that would be like, oh man, that was awesome. I want to see it over and over again. It was just, one pretty good set piece after another. And
Yeah.
it ended with, big old explosion at the end and just everyone doing their typical end of theater show bow. And that was it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would be quick to watch it again, but I think it was worth my money. I don't see anything
It sounds
wrong with
like
it.
it sounds you're a bit mixed on
I'm
this
mixed,
show.
yeah. Like, I don't want to say it's bad, but I don't want to say it was actually, amazing either. So,
Yeah.
solid
Yeah,
product.
I think well, certainly the performances, all the performers were top notch. I mentioned this to you guys before. I've been to enough shows. I've seen all those types of acts before. I've seen the stage illusions, the big stage illusions they've done. I've seen the fire dancers with the torches. I've seen the guy with the hoop thing,
Hmm.
the big hoop things that they go around in. I've seen all that stuff before. All these performers were definitely the top notch A-list. The top of their game. So that was good. I think the thing that was lacking for me was just the story just kind of got lost. It
Hmm.
really wasn't. Well, okay, there's this guy having a nightmare. Okay, and that's kind of it. And then these bunch of random scenes occur, and there really wasn't anything tying it all together in my mind. It's just a bunch. It just kind of goes from one thing to the other, and it's all enjoyable performances and stuff. But I think it would have been way stronger if there was a cohesive story threaded through the whole thing. That would have made me happier. But I was after seeing it the first time, I brought earplugs with me, and I was much happier watching it in subsequent times with the earplugs.
Yeah.
It wasn't so
Yeah.
much that the music was so ridiculously loud, but it was all of the people in the audience who were screaming, and that kind of got to me more than anything else. Everybody, everybody's always going woo, woo, woo. I kind of get tired of listening to that. Yeah, how many woos do I have to listen to in half an hour? So it's like it gets to be a bit much.
Try going
least-
to a 4-day music festival, buddy.
Oh, man.
I don't go to that. But anyway, earplugs made a big difference for me. It increased the enjoyability of the show substantially. But also, as we talked about this before too. I'm a huge Bill and Ted's fan. From the past. Call me old-fashioned. I'm
That
old.
has less to do with Halloween than this show, dude.
Yeah, but it was a great pop culture, lampoon every year. And it was different every year, and they had a story. There really was a corny story threaded through the whole thing. There's something that Bill and Ted had to do and had to accomplish every time. So you asked me if this is a replacement. I said, no, this is not a replacement. This is another show. I'll take Bill and Ted's any day.
I think it's a way different flavor
Okay,
of show.
but let's be fair here, Kurt. You're a traveler. You've seen this stuff. Most people haven't.
Yeah, I've
Let's
seen
be
all this
fair
stuff.
here.
Well, like I said, what was there is very good. These performers are at the top of their game.
But I do have some criticisms for it. I do. As much as this is my thing.
Sure.
There are still criticisms to be made here. Like Kurt said, it's not really a cohesive story. So that's definitely, a problem. Or at least something to say like, wait, what's going on here? The other thing too is that they didn't really change all that much from last year. The only thing that I at least noticed were the songs. That was a big one. And the dancing. That was really it. And the other thing too with the songs is that most of these songs don't really provoke this kind of imagery. I mean, granted, they do try to do like remixes to give it that, but why would you do that when there is this plethora of shock rock acts that have already done that? You could argue that that using modern songs is going to bring in the mainstream crowd, but are they really going to be rooting for a remix that they possibly have never heard before? Because while the elements from the remix you might recognize, it's not what people are used to. So, yeah, there are some issues with the show. I'm glad they used magic, because I often thought that magic was a seriously underused element for horror. Okay, I'm someone who actually has studied magic and illusions.
Nice.
There's a lot you can do with it. So even if you know the secrets, I'm still glad that they used him. So the show is good, but it needs some tweaking.
Yeah, and you can't really, just like we kind of alluded to, we can't really blame Universal too much for reusing the show, since, again, everyone's kind of recovering from what just happened with all the pandemic nonsense, the past couple years. So for what we got, I think it was a pretty good experience, and we'll see what they come up with next year. Hopefully they don't do this again. So we're crossing our fingers for that.
Or at least just make it better or cohesive.
Yep.
Okay, so Daniel, which out of those two shows, which did you prefer?
Oh man.
Well, they're really different.
Yeah, they are very different. Ghoulish is about a 15-minute show. Nightmare Fuel is about a 25-minute show. Oh man.
Well, let me ask you this: would you say Ghoulish had a cohesive story? Because it just kind of seemed like one big extended music video.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was definitely, I guess it was definitely prettier to look at. But you can't really appreciate talent that computer do them like live performers. So it's definitely missing that aspect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give the slight nod to Wildfire because I did enjoy all those pyro effects, and Imaginatrix definitely did wow me for a bit. Like the execution of them was great. But again, it's just I found both shows quite enjoyable, and now I have my expectations for future Horror Nights. See how things go better or worse than that. So,
Kurt, all right, Kurt, do you have a preference?
Well, no, I don't think not specifically, because they're really different genre shows. I think it's really hard to pick one or the other. I think Nightmare Fuel had all the pyro and stuff, which was kind of cool to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
World of Color is kind of visually stunning. Sorry, I said the World of Color. I mean, Ghoulish. Based on the World of Color technology, is kind of stunning to watch. It's very pretty. So I don't know.
For me, I do have to give a slight nod to, and yeah, you guys are right. It is kind of an unfair comparison.
Yeah.
But again, I like when Universal does get edgy. Okay, I'm 37. Okay, while I did, there are some things, kiddish things that I do like. This is Halloween. Okay, I want to have fun with being an adult. So I do have to give a slight nod to Nightmare Fuel.
All right. And with that said, we are going to dive head first into the meat of the discussion. The reason why a lot of people go to horror nights or just Halloween events around the country and even around the world, it's haunted houses, haunted mazes, whatever you want to call them. Sets, actors, you name it, music, scares. What has come out on top with these 10 houses? We got 4 IP based and 6 original. And the way we're gonna do this is I've already ranked them. I thought about this over and over again. Even when I was kind of looking at them, looking at videos, like, all right, I'm gonna have to swap these two because the way I look at a house now, I kind of look at 3 things. One, scare effect, because obviously Halloween, you gotta have like some sort of like terror. Like how immersive is it? How well does it misdirect you? How well does it can get the average person? And all that good stuff. Just is it just relying on jump scares? Is it dread? Like what type of horror does it tackle and how does it address it? 2, I think set design. I think that's this factors in the whole immersion. So the lighting, the space of the hallways, the stuff you touch, the thing that touches you, the ticklers, as Carlos would call them, that come on your feet or whatever, water. How did all of that factor in and make you really feel you're walking through a horror movie set? And yeah, actually, I did mention a third thing. Oh yeah, third thing was, I guess, the overall story. I know it's kind of cliche considering we kind of poke fun at Disney about that, but I think that does matter when it comes to an experience. Even if it's something original as like an IP, like is it something that you can recall seeing what happened and there's a point to it, or is this just theme, random rooms because cliche and that's it? I think that's a big difference on how House of Comedy is memorable. So with that said, let's start with number 10. I think this is a pretty unanimous number 10 when we get to it, but if you guys have your rankings, feel free. Tell me where it ranks on your list. But we are going to start with number 10, Spirits of the Coven.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unanimous. That was not their best.
Yeah, so this is an original IP house. And this is unfortunately a house that, to me, it got weaker the more it went on. I think the beginning was really cool with, the whole, hey, what's that password? And you kind of keep hearing going in. Because that's very 1920s. That's kind of what you expect from that era. But as far as the scare potential, there was hardly any. It was just kind of jump scare focused towards the end. And even then, it was like very, very, very lacking. I didn't really understand what was going on. It's just like we just walk in this speakeasy, and then we just get to see kind of dark behind the scenes magical summoning rituals. These tight tunnels. Worst of all, they're.
It's basically a speakeasy for witches, I guess, is what it is.
I guess, but in that case, have a bit more fun. Like, there are other houses that did less scary concept, but had a lot of fun with it and made it very immersive. This didn't. It was just throw the speakeasy theme out there and make it creepy last minute with no satisfying climax. I can hardly remember the climax.
I think the other thing too is that I just don't think people find witches scary.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this kind of goes back to the whole motif being too kiddish, because I mean, not that some witches haven't gotten to us. Like, I think there's a big reason why a lot of us recall the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz. So there was something kind of creepy about her, but I think witches have they haven't really done anything really scary within the popular conscious. I mean, Hocus Pocus 2 just came out, and we're not here to talk about the movie or criticize it. The point is that that's really seen as something more comical. And we're at Halloween Horror Nights. You haven't really done anything to scare us with witches. They just fly on a broom and do spells. Okay. And
So do wizards. Maybe you'll find wizards cool, not scary.
hmm I just think with that one, yeah, witches aren't scary anymore. Kurt, your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't. It just failed to impress. I guess there wasn't enough really going on there to really get into it.
Yeah,
hmm
like the fact we're
Yeah,
having trouble talking about this house kind of speaks for itself. Like, how remarkable was it? I just gave you the brief rundown. Be like, yeah, that kind of happened.
yeah, that's a good way of summing up. That happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
So
But would,
it's a unanimous number 10, Spirits of Coven.
yeah, but would you agree like the beginning was definitely stronger than the rest, or did you find something merit in the cavern part of it? I guess.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head because honestly, even having gone to I was lucky enough to go to Horror Nights 3 times. I went to Spirits of Coven twice just to see like, okay, maybe I missed something. And going back through it, the only thing I can really recall is a scene with a roulette wheel spinning and there's a head on it, and maybe a tub with body parts in it. But even then, it's like, okay.
Didn't really gross you out. Like I've seen more creepier elements in other houses that we'll get to, so
Mhm.
nothing about it really stuck out. Um, yeah, that's number 10. Okay, so I think from that was like the house I wouldn't really do again, but I think 9 through 1 I would with ease, but it's just different, very reasons why. And the more we go up, the more reasons I have to revisit it. So, but something has to be at number 9, and it was difficult to decide. But it's going to be another. It's going to be another original house, and I'm probably being unfair to it, but I'm going to give this slot to Descendants of Destruction. Only because I had high expectations going that house, and it kind of disappointed me a little bit. I felt like it was one of the shorter houses. You kind of walk through it, and I think the set design and the costumes were really cool towards the end, but um, I didn't really feel that immediate danger of being in the apocalypse. It's just like some people felt lost. They're kind of warning us not to go further. Some things were just kind of easy to miss. I think the scares were pretty average in there. Definitely got better towards the end, but I don't think there's anything spectacular about the house outside like maybe the really cool glowing costumes towards the end. And again, it had like a really weird ending. Like I didn't really get the whole point of it. It's like, okay, if you're telling me an apocalypse story, give me a reason. Like, is there a reason for hope? Is there a reason to kind of move on from it? Is everything gone to shit or something? I just don't know. Maybe a second walkthrough would have helped me solidify those thoughts. And since you guys been through it multiple times, maybe you can kind of debate me on this. But I don't feel like this house again. It's enjoyable. I would do it again, but I don't think there's anything really, really strong about it. It's pretty average the whole way through. And I was hoping for
Well,
more.
well, for that one, to me, if I'm sorry, Kurt, I keep cutting you out, but no, you go first.
But either way is fine. I mean, um I kind of liked it. I mean, it's definitely not in the top of the list. I mean, I think it has to be towards the bottom of the list,
Hmm.
for sure. But I thought it's just a you're just walking through a post-apocalypse nightmare. Just you're basically just seeing how people are surviving, I guess, in the post-apocalypse. I like the idea of going through the subway system or the train system. 'Cause I think that's kind of fun. There's kind of underground stuff where people have kind of camped out in trains and stuff. I think that's a fun idea. But yeah, there isn't really, you just go through a bunch of scenes and just see how people are surviving is really all you're really doing.
Yep.
I wouldn't put that at my number 9, but because for me, that felt like it was trying to be The Last of Us, a very popular video game. And not to mention, when I went back through again, my favorite part was actually seeing the subway car that was actually like up on its hind wheels. And you'll notice that there's actually like a skeleton hand dangling from the window. The one thing I would have loved to have seen is for that hand to just drop.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool.
I would have loved to have seen that, because there's stuff dangling in these houses for good reason. And if you're coming up on this thing, you see that skeleton hand, and it just drops in front of you. It's gonna irk some people. And you can even like put like a tether system so that when one hand drops, you can like pull it up with a cord and have like another one ready to go. And not to mention, I think you're a safe enough distance away so that nobody would get hurt by it. But instead, the big scare is when you turn the corner, a subway's lights and horns go off, which happens in another house, which we'll get to later. So I would actually put that more on maybe either on my number 8 or 7 for what is my number 9, and we'll talk a bit more when we get to it.
That's
It'd have
fine.
to be Bugs Eaten Alive, but we'll talk to that. We'll talk about that when we get
Sure.
to it.
Sure. All right.
So,
yeah. So maybe there'll be some controversial picks coming up soon. But and I have to like look through some other people's lists and kind of see what they thought. Also, for my opinion, like rewatch the videos and all that stuff. So my number 8, I might shock you a bit both, but I'm actually going to put an IP house here, and I'm going to put the Horrors of Blumhouse as the worst of the IP houses here at the bottom, but not really for the reasons you think. It's still a very good experience. Blumhouse, I'm sure the movies are great too. I should probably go see them. It makes me want to go see those movies, but I just kind of felt like I don't know. I feel like I didn't spend enough time in either one of these movies. Like before things started to get good, like in the Freaky House, like we're at this awesome party, so you see a guy get shot, and that was well done, executed, and then it ends. And it's like, come on, like that's it? Like, is that really the climax of the movie? Like, and plus the set design wasn't really that great. It was very narrow and barren, just like inside parts of a house. You can only do so much with that. The music I think was pretty good. But yeah, I just think, and it was definitely, I think, probably this, maybe not the scariest, but yeah, definitely one of the scarier houses of the night for sure. Like a lot of things got me in there, especially with like noise effects and the timing of the actors coming around the corner with that creepy black phone mask. But I just think for an IP house, maybe that's a good problem to have. I just wanted more, and I think having it split in 2 halves did it more of a disservice than a service to the house. And as far as which one I like better, maybe Black Phone a bit more. I guess. I was hoping to see more of the child actors in there because I knew that movie kind of involved children. That would have been more terrifying to watch, and they were very sparse in that house. But man, I just felt so robbed of Freaky. Like Freaky was getting so good, and then it ends, and yeah, like that's really all I have to say about that house. It could have done better. It's still great. I recommend people go walk through it, but yeah, it's the least remarkable of the IP houses for me.
all right, Kurt.
Yeah, I guess if you have to talk about in terms of IP houses, yeah, I think it probably is one of the weaker ones. I thought it was a little odd that they did 2 movies in one house, but they've done that. I mean, they've done that before at Halloween Horror with Blumhouse. They've kind of combined them. Yeah, I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I thought the Black Phone section was better.
Mm-hmm.
I like that better. But I think both could have been longer and try to get you more immersive in the story.
Would you say that part where you actually are back outside to go into the Black Phone house was a bit of a buzzkill?
Kind of. It took you out.
It was. I kind of first time I went through, I wasn't really expecting it. You figure, oh, that's it already, and you're outside. Oh, I see. We're going to go do another one now. Okay, I see. I didn't really know they were going to do 2 in 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right away. So yeah, it was kind of weird the first time. Says, what? That's it already? And, oh, okay, we're going into another one. Okay,
fine. For me, that one's a bit higher on my list, but I think it's because also I've seen those movies, and I definitely prefer Black Phone over Freaky because Freaky is just a deadly version of Freaky Friday, which again most people associate that title with comedy, but it still did its job when I saw the movie. It was still entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I do prefer Black Phone because I just think there's something about being isolated that is scary like that. And not to mention the fact that the character that Ethan Hawke plays has this interchangeable mask that is meant to reflect his emotions. You never really see his face. You basically just see the mask. And just going through all those scenes for me was a bit more fun. And hearing your reasoning for having the houses split, yeah, okay, I'll give you that one because when there was one year where they did another Blumhouse house, but they had three movies in one, and they didn't have to separate them by going outside. When you go out there, yeah, you're kind of like, wait, what? That's it? That's a good point. And so to me personally, there's also only three houses. I don't really count Universal Monsters because while they are Universal Monsters, it was its own original story. So I technically don't really count that as an IP house. So, but I will say, out of all the IP houses, which according to me is three, yeah, that was the least effective.
Yeah.
So, what number are you on?
I'm
See,
um
7.
I'm on 7 right now. So right now I have Spirits of the Coven, Descent of Destruction, and Horrors of Blumhouse.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think my 7 would have to be. See, I know it's got to be on here somewhere. Yeah, I'm looking at the T-shirt
There we
for the
go.
list
That's
here.
the one I bought. I love it.
I would have to go. Oh my god, it's actually not on here. Uh, Hell House or Hell Block
Mhm.
because it felt like that was trying to be Doom.
Mhm.
So that for me is my number 8. I can't really recall much from it, but gamers like Doom. Even Kurt does.
Hmm.
All right. Well, speaking of number 7, I'm glad you brought that up because 7 for me was actually Help Block Horror. So we're going right back in the original houses. It surprised me because I've heard going in that was probably like people's like worst house, but I can't really see the reason why. I think for what it is, the actors in there were pretty great. I think it told a complete narrative, and I think the pacing of the scenes were just well done. Like seeing the monsters and cages, the variety of creatures seen there, like normal guards that are all bloodied up. I think that was just a neat little effect going in. And yeah, like you said, like it reminded me a lot of very like the sci-fi doomish thing that I hope they do one day because I think that would be a great IP to reflect, and just gaming in general has a lot of wonderful horrific games to do. So yeah, I think Hellblock Horror just kind of nailed the average house for me. I had my fair share of scares. I think the costumes were great. Um, lot of fog in there. A lot of interesting lighting that reflected not just a boring prison because I was expecting a boring prison, but there was enough in there to keep me invested and keep me kind of reading some of the things that were around me. And while I didn't have a clear climax, it told a good enough narrative that I'd have to go see it again and check out more of it. So if a house leaves me wanting, then great. I think that's the design of a pretty solid house, and my VIPs it definitely stands up more above the other two we talked about already. So that's just my thoughts on Hellblock Horror. What say you guys?
Kurt.
Oh, well, this one, yeah, this is pretty low on my list. It didn't do a whole lot for me. I mean, to me, it's kind of like using the idea of Cabin in the Woods, but not anywhere near as interesting.
Hmm.
Sort of. It just doesn't. It just didn't do a whole lot. I think. Oh, we lose Dan. Oh, there we go. And I don't know. I just didn't see. You're just kind of going through a prison with monsters in it. Okay, fine. It didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a whole lot of interest out of it myself. It just kind of seemed like more of the same. I think it needed some kind of variety to what was going on.
Yeah, there were some times when the scare actors did get me, so that's definitely a plus. But yeah, it's basically what you just said, Kurt. Uh, Not a lot of variety. You can get you still get some scares if you're lucky, and luckily I did.
Yeah.
So I'll give them props for that. But it just seemed like they were trying to be Doom without fully committing to it.
Yeah, it could just be a taste of what's to come. And I think that was the house where we had one guy behind us just lose themselves, fall flat in their back. I remember
Oh
that.
yeah, that was right.
Yeah, because I forget what actor it was, but poor guy just holding on a dear life. People just trying to hold him up. So definitely one of the yeah, I'd say medium high scare effect. It'd be something to experience again, but I remember enjoying it. So we'll move on. We're almost halfway there. We're at number 6. So number 6 and 5, I'm kind of flip flopping a lot. But I think I'm going to give the nod slightly to, well, not the nod. It would be less of a nod here. 6 is Fiesta de Chupacabras. So this house to me, definitely excels for the following reasons: the puppetry. I think that was really, really well done. I just wanted more of it. There was just so few of
Yeah.
that puppetry in the house that I think we just saw it 3 or 4 times. I just want it everywhere. Like it's probably an expensive prop to do, but man, if they just implemented that a bit more, it would definitely rank higher on my list. Because I was definitely dreading seeing it because they made it pretty scary, compared to like other depictions of the chupacabra that I'm used to, and all the actors, having Spanish audio play just for that immersion. Um, the masks were a little bit goofy though, but I think they were trying to reflect more of like the whole Aztec culture thing, which doesn't really have super scary masks, or at least as far as I know. Um, but overall, I think it was a pretty good length house. The puppetry alone just what keeps up this list. Decent scares and moments, and yeah, um, a solid pace as well. It just starts off pretty calm and then just quickly descends. There was a big nut towards the middle where there's like this big open room, but yet nothing really happens in it. So that was kind of like the major downer of the house to me, where you just have like one character in the corner not doing much and stuff happening around you, but that's a waste of space. So you had all this space and you just didn't use it for that room, and that was
Yeah,
kind of a downer.
things can happen. I've been through there multiple times, and sometimes there can be up to two characters in there that will kind of run out from the sides, and there's a bit of audio that plays as well. But yeah, so stuff can happen in there if you get the timing right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the general problem with these houses. If you don't get the timing right, you miss some of the scares depending on where you are in the conga line. Um, yeah, that's why I always get the frequent fear pass, so I go through multiple times and make sure I get all the jump scares.
There you
Like
go.
you can't see everything every time. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I like the big chupacabra puppets, the full size. Like I said, I wish you see more of them.
Mhm.
The best version they ever did of that technology was when they did the American Werewolf in London.
Ooh.
Out many years ago, they had the full size werewolf puppets.
Dang. I need to save some
Boy.
video of that.
Yeah, those were awesome, and you got to see the werewolf. I think like 5 times or something.
Nice.
So yeah, so
I would like to
regardless
say,
of where you were, you always got it jumped out at you somewhere along the way.
I
That
would
was
have
good.
loved to see them give a cameo to Eddie from the horror makeup show in there.
That would have been funny. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'll match your 6. 'Cause that'll have to be a number 6 for me because again, like that puppet was just great to see move. And yeah, I wish there was more of it. Matter of fact, if I could add one more, I would like for them to have added a puppet of the chupacabra eating a goat because that's
Oh.
what they're known for.
Yes. Make it really gory and make it like super convincing.
Yeah, I mean, heck, you can even have it like spray like dyed water to make it look like blood. Uh, that's something I would have loved to have seen, or heck, even like have the chupacabra like eating an actor, and then the actor gets like one last gas to scare the crowd.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they would still. I mean, if they eat a goat, I'm pretty sure they eat a human.
Oh, of course. Blood is blood. You see how big they are? Yeah, they need a lot of food to sustain that. And there's many of them, and apparently there's like this cult surrounding them. So maybe if it does come back in a future house or something, I don't know. Like I thought the theme was pretty cool. Bring in
Yeah.
more folklore from other countries and stuff.
Yeah, and
There's
so for people out there who prefer this, you could say it's progressive.
yeah. So solid job, solid take, and I showed my dad the video of that house. Be like, yeah, that's actually pretty scary and well done. So good job, Universal. Good job.
Mhm.
All right, so we are done with the bottom half of the list, and now we're going to go to the top 5 houses. So you're probably surprised that one of these houses I haven't mentioned yet have made my top 5, and we're going to start off with number 5. And it surprised me too because first time, yeah, maybe it wasn't as great as I thought. The second time, never solidified it. I'm going to have to give the nod to Bugs Eaten Alive here. I know it's weird because that's definitely a house I wasn't really hyped about, but I think the house does so many things well with the way it progresses, the way it introduces you, like things is going wrong, like the false ads, like especially being right next to Men in Black, which is like this 50s Americana going on, and then you see that transition very well from the ad to the woman who this whole I forget what it was, like this like this fog machine AC unit, I don't know what
Yeah,
it was.
some kind of bug spray.
Yeah,
I forgot what they call it. It was the bug eliminator, some kind of bug eliminator. I forgot what the phrasing was on it.
yeah, but
Mhm.
whatever. It's
It
supposed
was,
to.
it was a bug exterminating machine combination air conditioner.
Yeah.
With now with hindsight.
Now with hindsight, yes, and yeah, even though that house was hardly scary at all, like it did have some moments that I know would definitely terrify a lot of people and got me the first time. Just feeling the spider web stuff on your skin, the ticklers, the water effects, the giant spider at the end, seeing the creepy pimples and like mutation of the people walking out, scientists, like just the whole 9 yards. Like I think it was a short but definitely sweet house that um, I, I I don't know. I just found more joy in it than I should have. But just the theme and the way they executed it, and incorporating both small and giant bugs, I think with what they had, it works really well. It works very well, and people that have a fear of bugs would definitely hate this house with a passion. I'm not one of them, but and because of that, I definitely had my fair share of scares and chuckles seeing the giant cockroach kind of like wobble at you and and yeah, it featured most of the creepy insects. Not really sure if I saw any bees in there. I'm surprised they didn't. Um, because I really hate bees and wasps. So if they would have incorporated that bit in there, that would have really raised it up a notch. But for what it is, yeah, very solid house. Easily a top 5 for me, guys.
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it was a kind of a fun idea. The kind of like they're kind of riffing off the '50s kind of better living through chemistry and technology kind of stuff. I thought that was kind of funny. I love the setup as you're walking in. You get they're kind of doing like this open house, kind of preview center kind of fair thing going on, and you got that initial scene with the the woman homemaker from the
Yeah.
'50s showing off. Here it is, and then and within seconds things start to go wrong. And I thought that the premise setup that was great.
Yes.
I thought I think there needed to be more. I mean, I probably would have put this one lower on my list.
Mhm.
This guy, I didn't find the bugs that creepy. I kind of like the premise of the whole thing. I just kind of think something else was needed. I think to make it scary. It didn't really seem scary to me at all.
Oh, it's not scary. It's
Yeah.
just fun to go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, it was kind
Yeah.
of maybe maybe just kind of riff off the jokes more. I don't know. Maybe make it a funnier kind of thing. I don't know. With more of the '50s references, but it's mostly once you get through the initial and see what's going on, it's mostly just bugs eating people, and it says okay, yeah, okay, and it's kind of like yeah, okay, I got
Well,
it.
that and people turning into bugs.
Yes.
Well, I don't think they were. I don't think they were turning into bugs. I think the
The-
bugs were basically eating
I
them
did see.
inside out.
I did see some actor that was like a human bug hybrid.
I saw that too.
So, and if Kirk can't recall it, and he's the one who'd been to it multiple times, then maybe that was an issue. Maybe there should have been more or something like that. Because
Yeah.
my big problem was the bugs didn't move. I mean, I'm seeing this big wall that's covered in cockroaches, or maybe it was ants, and they just stood there. They're glued on. And maybe it's a bit much to ask for them to move, but even then, like, have some stagehand behind there, and the bugs are attached to magnets, and they're just like moving them across. Like, do something like
Yes.
that. And magnets don't cost very much. You could have easily have done something like this. So that, or like when I see like when I'm walking by like this spider and it doesn't move. I mean, just even a simple from the spider would have been effective. I mean, like sure, like you can argue that the spider in the Harry Potter Forbidden Journey ride doesn't move, but you don't stay with it very long. But because you're conga lining through this house, you're going to be face to face with these bugs for a longer time. So it'd be nice if they did something, or again, play off a bit more of the humans being turned into bugs. So for me, that's why that house was low on the list, because there was a lot of potential there, but I think they relied too heavily on people's fear of bugs rather than doing something more interesting with them.
You know what? That's fair. But I think because the way it was so surprising, because my expectations for the house were very, very low. Definitely just put it more in my good graces, and I do hope they do something like this again because, as you said, just simple tweaks, and you can play into people that are terrified of bugs and people in general that maybe not be as scared, but there's certain aspects of them that are very terrifying or annoying, like them swarming you, biting you, just doing things that are very, that could be magnified, or just playing
Yeah,
with use in the dark a bit more.
yeah. Or heck, here's another one. Say you have like a table that's filled with bugs; they're not moving, but then but the bugs are sitting on one of those electric football tables where you just flip a switch and it starts vibrating. Flip a switch and have those bugs will jump and scare the guy walking through.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's not much.
Yeah, like
So
I
that's
understand,
why for me it was low on my list. There was a lot of potential there, but yeah,
but
I just think it relied too heavily on phobia.
Yeah, true. But very few of the houses also had like a strong opening and ending. The opening
Mm.
that really sets the stage were lacking a lot of the original houses. Only really, I guess, Chupacabra, Deadman's Wharf, and Bugs had those. The rest didn't. You just kind of walk in and stuff happens. And then with the ending, with having a guy kind of jump scare you a little bit and just say, "Hey, we're gonna blow this place up." I kind of wish there was an explosion effect to finish it off, but the structure is there. This is definitely top five house material if everything could have been executed at top potential. But I don't know. Like I was really going back and forth between this Fiesta, Hellblock, but this was a more memorable house than overall. And I think the memorability factor of it. I mean, maybe not to you, Kurt, or you guys, but to me, it just I don't know. It just something about it just stuck with it. Maybe it's the Americana, maybe it's just the bugs and lack of expectation. But
Well, for me, what would have to take that spot is, and I'm pretty sure this would be next on your list, is Dead Man's Wharf.
all right,
Is
well,
that what's next? Is that the one that's next on your list?
no, actually,
Really? I thought I had that one.
no, close, but maybe another shock here. But I'm going to have to put Halloween here at slot 4. So the next slot up from the IP houses. Why Halloween? Maybe it's a bit of my bias of going through a Halloween house back in 2018. So I was kind of used to seeing Michael Myers in the hallway. But yeah, the house is really terrifying, and there's a lot of claustrophobia, and the music is great in there. And that final scene, oh my goodness, that was whew, mirror. Anytime you get mirrors done well, that's always terrifying. Um, I don't know. I just feel like some elements were a bit too similar from the previous house, and I felt like the house could have been a little bit more. I don't know. I felt like Michael Myers sightings were a little bit too frequent. I kind of feel like where he did pop out and scream like from both sides of the hallway was great. Um, I just wanted more time to be immersed and like have some other effects kind of tantalize me, not just have Michael Myers here in one corner and the next corner you see him again and right here. Maybe that's just kind of the point of the movie, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on that, but I love this house. Like all houses in the top 4 were phenomenal. I think I would easily do them if like back to back to back and never get bored of them. Um, so it just could just be recency bias, but solid house. It was good. Had a lot of great moments. Just nothing that I can say wow right there, except for like maybe the mirror scene at the end. Um, that's just my take. So yeah.
Kurt, your thoughts?
I would put this one up higher. I do agree. The Halloween has been done before. It's been done multiple times at Halloween Horror Nights. So it's certainly nothing new or groundbreaking. But I still enjoy it. I think one of the other things I think for IP houses that I think is worth thinking about is how much immersion do you get? How much do you feel like you're actually in that movie
Hmm.
as opposed to just watching it? Do you feel like you're in it or you feel like you're watching it? And this one I felt more like I was in it.
Hmm.
Just for I like the sheer number of times that Michael Myers is there.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time I've seen the house where they have the really young kid version of Michael Myers in the clown costume. I don't remember
Mm.
ever seeing that scene before in one of the houses. It's always the older Michael Myers. I kind of like that. I didn't expect that back. Oh, we're starting all the way at the beginning of the movie here. Okay, this is great. And I really, when I I really felt like I was in it. I felt like I was in those sets, and I really like it, and particularly the ending. The mirror room with the multiple Michaels everywhere. You don't know which one's gonna throw the knife at you. And then there's all they always do. When they've done this before, they do the bonus scare. I don't know if you saw the bonus scare. This is after you go out the exit.
Yeah.
You go a little ways, and depending on the timing and depending on when you're there, there's like another Michael Myers.
Oh.
That happened to me one year when you and I went.
Yeah, I've seen them do it on other mazes. They particularly do it on Halloween, the Halloween houses. But yeah, there's frequently the bonus Michael that you think the house is over, and then there's one more.
That's
I
awesome.
always like that. I always
Yeah,
like that. That's a little bit because he says, no, you're not getting away.
Yeah, that house is actually a lot higher on my list. That's actually number two
Yeah.
on my list. Because yeah, they definitely done Halloween to death. But there's a reason why they keep using it.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
whether or not you think they should step away from it is debatable. But for me, what got me the most was just how many times they were able to get me. Because, like you
Oh,
said, there was a little kid. And matter of fact, like even for that one little kid, like he's despite having just that one like second scene, he is an in-demand guest at horror cons. 1 second of screen time that changed his life.
Yeah,
But
just the costume and then the way. I mean, holding the knife down does something. I think it makes it look, because I guess you're gonna do this with it. But the way he's standing there holding the knife with the blade pointing down, it just kind of looks freaky for a kid to be doing that.
mhm. And the other thing too was there was another what you could call a mirror scare. I mean, it wasn't like what Daniel was talking about, but when you're walking up to the house, right by the side of it, I can see the Michael actor coming to me. So I'm thinking, okay, this is where he's going to jump out. And while he does jump out, he did not jump out from that space.
Mhm.
He actually jumped out from another space. I was looking at a reflection the whole time.
Ah.
You guys scared me. Okay, bravo. You deserve that.
It's definitely one
The
of the
other
scary houses. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other scene was when we're walking down a hallway and we're coming up on two closets here. Mike steps out, does the big scare, but what I didn't expect was Laurie Strode popping up from the other one to
That
scare
was
me.
really good.
Like, bravo, you got me. Okay,
Yeah.
so, and of course, the notorious mirror room that Daniel was talking about.
Oh God.
You have no idea who's who.
I was freaking out
And
that time.
and when you see so many reflections, that boggles the mind even more. So yeah, this one, like you could say it's an unfair advantage because it's a popular IP. Matter of fact, when it comes to this sort of stuff, I try to make two lists: one for the popular IPs and the original IP, because yeah, they do have a bit of an unfair advantage. So on my popular IP list, that one is my number two as well. So yeah, that one for me was really good. They got me so many times in that house.
Well,
Yeah, I like that one a lot, even though it's been done so much.
Hmm.
like I said, these tougher houses, again, just I would never get tired of them. They're just fun to go through. Even watching the videos of it's like, man, I can already vision myself like this. All these bars are just well done, and kudos to Universal for really making these four we're going to talk about stand out. Again, just recency bias. I've seen this in 2018, so it just wasn't as impactful. I'm going to see the movie at the end of the month finally, so maybe I'll respect the franchise a bit more because it's a classic for a reason. So
Yeah, for me, the house that would occupy this spot on Daniel's list, for me at least, would be Dead Man's Wharf. But we'll talk about that when we get to it.
yep. Well, you won't have to wait long because that's my number 3 house. It is Dead Man's Wharf. It is the best IP house there by far to me. I mean IP. The best original house. The best original house done. Yes. The best original house. Why? Set design and overall story. Not the scariest of the IP houses, but it didn't need to be. Just the temperature, the way things like move, the lighting, the costumes of all the sea creatures, and coming from a game I've recently played called Bloodborne, which had this weird Lovecraftian people of a fishing village, I was just in full nerd mode that whole house. Like, yes, this is awesome. I want to see more of this. I was just enjoying myself. It was like, God, no wonder this house gets a lot of wait time because it's just that good. Um, just seeing the woman playing the violin just kind of mellow out and just really capture this whole experience, and it told a case of story, and ugh, it's it was definitely a house that really sets a standard for originals going forward. Like, I hope they learn a lot from this house, and if they want to make it scary, sure, but if they can have this level of set design and progression and pacing, it was a perfect length house. The only negative I can really have towards it is just a lack of a climax beyond that one scene I talked about, the violin playing ghost up there. So, other than that, like, nothing but praise for this house. I might just go to Halloween Horror Nights just experience the house again because how much I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it was a good one. I think for a non-IP house, it was excellent. I think the environment it created was just fantastic. You had it was at nighttime and you had the wind, and I guess there was a storm going, and there's one spot where they're blowing some water in your face from rain, and I just love all the immersion of that. What was great. I liked all just the you really felt like you were on this dock or this pier.
Hmm.
And that I thought that was great. I think the only thing I think would be stronger is it needed to be scarier.
Yeah,
It didn't seem scary enough, and like as you said, it kind of had an abrupt ending. Kind of like all of a sudden, there needed to be some sort of climax to it, some more bigger ending, because you kind of turn another corner. Oh, we're at the exit. Oh,
mhm.
okay.
Hmm.
It's kind of like it didn't have a definitive ending to it. At least I didn't detect anything. So that'd be my only real criticism of it was just I wanted it to be scarier and I wanted an ending.
Oh, and to be longer too. That
Yeah.
was one criticism you had when we were there. There's always something creepy about the water. Point blank. Okay, I mean, you've even heard, for at least for those of us who have watched National Geographic or Discovery, you've heard scientists say this. We know more about space than we do our own damn ocean. Okay, so there's always something creepy about the water, and I love seeing like all the barnacles that they had on the actors. That was great. That little watery effect you get when you see like water reflected on something. That's always pretty to see. But now you have it in a darker setting. The violinist, as we mentioned, and like, there was even one year where they did another, at least sea-based IP original house they did, where the boat, I guess, was like tilted because the idea is that it sank. So you
Nice.
actually had to walk a portion of this like at an angle.
Yep, I remember that.
So yeah, and yeah, it could have been longer. It could have used a better ending, but God, there's always just something creepy about the water.
Mhm.
Like, it's a lot of fun to play in, but after a certain point, you go, okay, what's down there?
Yeah, there's things that can eat you in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what spots? This was your number 3 house.
Number 3. Yeah.
For me, my personal number 3 was actually Universal Monsters Legends Collide. Uh, and is that next on your list there, Daniel?
Well, it's either Weekend or Legends Collide at this point. One versus the two, and I've been flip flopping about this a lot. Um,
Yeah.
again, because the top four is so razor thin on any given day, but it's just one of those. It's such a it's this. I think this agent's so top heavy that you can go through those houses back to back to back, and you can re-rank them all over again just based on the walkthrough you get. So
Mhm.
I'm well. Here we go. Number 2. Might be surprising, especially with the way I reacted towards it, but I'm going to have to put the Weekend here. The Weekend actually makes it as my number 2 house, and I know I was so hype about it. Like, I loved it. I loved it because I watched all the music videos coming up to it. Like, normally not a fan of pop music in general, but the Weekend's music and the music videos, they're just fun to watch, and I think it fits in with the theming of the whole the theme of the whole event. So, um, but why did Weekend not make number 1 compared to number 1, which we'll talk about? But actually, let's go with the positives. Weekend. Um, Well, hey, give it credit because it does continue the story of the music videos amazingly. You see many, many things in there, like the beheading of the main guy there, the woman who killed him, and just various ballroom scenes, and just walking through them. They're not really that complicated, but they're just so well done. Just having a guy slit the girl's neck on stage and having a blood spray there, really good effect. Having everyone in sync with taking off the masks at a certain point in music, awesome. Seeing a random frog monster there for no reason, but that was like, okay, well he's
Well,
having,
remember, in the video he licked a toad and he was tripping massive balls.
yeah. So just little things like that, like it was so well crafted, and the way you start with accessing his memories, and then you end, he's gone from the chair, he's off, he has a brand new face on, this mass murder that came back to life, and it's just, this was the most surprising house at the event. And it was absolutely hype walking through it. The only thing I could say right now is that this house, while I had a lot of them, was not the scariest house I walked through that night. And that's the only thing holding it back. And man, like I like just thinking about this house, like I had so much fun. I want to walk through it again. And it also had that fun climax with the whole bloodied bandage plastic surgery people there at the end that scared you, and there was a guy that blended into the wall. So there's a lot of cool little tricks in there mixed in with the story, and it's just a very, very strong package of the house. And I know the way I'm talking about it now, like it should be number one, but scare factor is probably the only reason holding back, and that's just my take. So still hype house. What say you guys?
Oh, well, seeing how we now know what your number one, we'll tackle both houses at the same time. So explain why Universal Monsters Legends Collide is your number one.
Yay.
Yes, giving it the credits here. One, familiarity, like all three of those monsters are classic for a reason. Like it's just stuff we've known for the longest time. Set design was incredible. Just the way this opening and just walk into the tomb and how claustrophobic feels afterwards. Great. Like I got scared a lot in that house. So there's a lot of moments where you have the creepy stuff come out of the shadows and Dracula, even though he was a big part of the house, scared me like the first time I saw him, and it's just, and the way the house can just end, like I think the scare factor and just make me the scare factor, the set design, is overall the feeling in there, and the fact that they tried to tell a pretty fun story of how to get all of them together, that was really cool. I mean, what other houses do you see that combine three mythos like that and meld them the way they did? Yeah, Dracula's the weak point, but so what? I mean, he showed up at the right time. He had a reason being there, even though it wasn't that clear like the other two. And the execution of the house was great. I think that's certainly a house that can scare a lot of people and can give them a very satisfying experience. And it was a good length. I think probably it might be the longest of the IP houses, but or maybe Halloween was longer. But either way, um, I loved it. I loved the facade going into it. There was a lot of love and attention going inside that house. It's just solid from top to bottom, and I really can find very little things to knock on it other than Dracula wasn't a big part of it. But to me, Dracula's probably my least favorite of the three. So that's just me. So it might just be a me thing, but the scare factor alone is the major reason why it was bumped up over the weekend. But go on.
Okay, so Kurt, explain these last two houses for yourself.
Yeah, I thought well the weekend was kind of was an interesting idea. I mean, I think I would have put it lower on my list, probably more towards the middle. I didn't find it terribly scary. Interesting concept though. I mean, it's kind of a different kind of thing, which can be good. But yeah, it didn't really hook me that much. Not sure what else to say about it. Didn't really seem to have much of an ending. I like the Legends Collide. I liked a lot better. Just from like as you said, set design. I think it was up on a par with the Dead Man's Pier. Mm-hmm. I think I put those two would be my top favorite together, just because I like the look of them, and I felt more immersed. I mean, the Egyptian stuff is just cool. I mean, it's always in Egyptian stuff in tombs. It's always intriguing stuff to look at. All the various things, the pyramids. If you look and read about that kind of stuff and everything that went on there, I felt it felt more claustrophobic too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
was good.
I was scared. You guys know I was scared at that house.
Yeah, you're going through these kind of very narrow passages. Everything kind of felt like it was more in your face. Um, the only thing I guess the only thing I would ding it a little bit, they didn't make a really good effort to tell you what the storyline was. There's this little loop of the movie playing outside, but I didn't really catch it at the right time the first time I went through, and I kind of missed it. I think they need. I think Universal needs to do a better job to make sure you're getting this, the premise of the story for something like this while you're waiting in the queue line. Because if you're not going past the front of the house, when the movie is playing at the right point, you totally miss it. And I think they need to have like more monitors or something along the queue line to bring you up to speed. But it made a lot more sense after I figured out what was going on with it. But yeah, I kind of liked it overall. I think that'd be one of my top. Is either that or Dead Man's Spirit. It's kind of hard for me to pick which of the two I would put as my one and the two. But I definitely like the Legends Collide. And it actually had an ending, which was nice. One of the monsters wins.
Yes.
And it changes every night. You don't know which monster is going to win, which was kind of fun little idea they threw in there.
Well, the weekend does have an ending as well, but we'll go on to go on.
Yeah, for me, the reason why the weekend is my number one is because now don't get me wrong, like I like that house too.
Yes.
I got the socks. I got the socks. Because I expect that from these monsters. Okay, I expect horror from them. I wasn't expecting horror from an R&B singer, because the only connection to horror I knew he had, at least at the time, was a song he did called "The Hills Have Eyes," which is the same name as a horror movie. But the song he made had nothing to do with the movie. It was about being friend zoned. So when I saw those music videos, and maybe I didn't see them in order, but when I saw those videos, I went, okay, this is interesting. Let's see what this guy has. And when I saw the house, it just surprised me. I did not know this guy had it in him. And I later found out that it was the creative team that approached him with the concept, and the artist had the weekend. His real name is Abel, by the way. He actually had to approve of everything they did, just like what J.K. Rowling did when Universal came to them for doing a Harry Potter attraction. He still played a hand in this. And my favorite part in that house was actually the subway car, because it's one thing to just shine your high beams and make a loud noise. The train actually got closer.
Yes,
to
it
you.
did. Yes, it did.
That was the part that I absolutely loved. And I even had a chance to tell the creative team about that when I attended the Midnight Syndicate signing. Two of the guys were there. And I made sure that I got a photo with them and told them that was my favorite part of the house. I did not see that coming, both literally and figuratively. So that's why that house is my number one, because I did not expect that from him. Now I am glad to say, Abel, welcome to the Horror Nights alumni.
Woo!
Glad to have you. Now, as for Legends Collide, like I said, I expect horror from them because they are creatures of horror. So it wasn't that surprising to me. But I still love the house because, in my opinion, Egyptian mythology is a bit creepier than Greek mythology, which is another popular topic amongst nerds. And having a three-way battle between these monsters, yeah, I kind of felt like maybe Dracula was a bit shoehorned in. Granted, they still gave a good reason, or at least a reason, for him to be there, so that he can, if he snags a medallion, he can actually wander during the day. And I was also lucky enough to see all three endings. And I just think a match between the Mummy and the Wolfman was good enough. I didn't think it really needed Dracula. But they all definitely had a reasons to want the medallion. As for which ending was my favorite, I would have to say the Wolfman, because out of everybody who was in that battle, he was the only one that, in my opinion, had a legit reason for wanting it. The Mummy wants it just because it's his. Dude, you're dead. Okay, you don't need it anymore. You wouldn't even need. Matter of fact, unless someone cast a spell for you to arise, you would be doing nothing with it. Okay, you don't need it. You're dead. Goodbye. Dracula, for his own nefarious purposes, he's already a bad guy. He just wants to wreak more havoc. So you automatically don't deserve this thing. The Wolfman just wants to break his curse. I can understand that. So that's why, for me, that was my particular favorite ending. But going back to what you said, Kurt, about having more monitors for this kind of stuff, one of the criticisms I sent them in my feedback sheet was that I think you guys need to make a trailer for each house and put it on YouTube.
Yes.
Because this is one issue that I'm having with these houses that are based off of that are originals, is that I'm having a hard time piecing the story together or figuring out the story of what's going on. It would be easier for me if you guys actually made some sort of a trailer for each house and put it on YouTube. This way I can actually know ahead of time of what's going to be happening, or at least what I'm getting into. Just like with a trailer for a movie, give us an idea of the story of what's happening here. This will make it a bit easier for me, and you don't have to be in line at the right time. Just make a trailer, put on, and even when they did make a trailer for say The Weekend House, that was just a trailer telling you it's happening. Did nothing for the story. So that was one criticism that I have about the festivities overall, is that make a trailer for each house to give us an idea of the story we're about to step into. So yeah, so that would be the order that I would put them in. And matter of fact, I think honestly, Universal, make a movie about that.
Yes. That would sell like hotcakes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and would you have to put people in it to be in the center of the battle? Maybe, because after all, you could say for the house, we were the people who were caught in the middle of it.
We were the extras.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like with Freddy versus Jason. The focus was always on them. The humans were just kind of caught in the crossfire. So you want your horror extended universe, guys, you have your template. How you keep screwing this up, I don't know.
They're probably just still doing a little market research survey. They just want to make sure there really is that interest there before investing.
Supposedly there was an idea of them doing movies based off the Horror Nights icons, which I'd still be all for seeing. But all in all, yeah, those are our houses. Kurt, how did you feel about, if you had to rank Horror Nights on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, where would you, well, actually, no, I should actually pose this question to Daniel first. Where would you put it?
All right, so this kind of ties into closing thoughts, but before I do that, I just want to say, I find interesting that our lists and our reasoning were pretty similar. You gave props, you dinged Legends for the same reasons why I dinged Halloween, just because recency bias and well, I expect this to be scary, so if it's not top of the line, it's gonna maybe be out surprising. But things that did surprise us, boom, went to the top of the board. That's why Bugs is so high for me. That's why Weekend's so high for us. So I find that very interesting. But yes, closing thoughts. The overall experience. How much fun did I really have? Admittedly, I never really was much of a horror guy growing up. I'm starting to get more into the genre through mainly gaming right now, but soon to be more the movies and more of these events that I'm starting to attend bit by bit. So that night, I had a blast with you guys. You made that night really special, really fun. I never felt stressed. Yeah, I felt tired towards the end, but we're at a theme park. We're supposed to be tired and exhausted.
There's a
So,
lot of walking.
yep. So overall, my overall enjoyment, especially this being my first, it's gonna be really damn high. Just the thrill of being inside this event fully. Give it a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Absolutely amazing. Why I want to make this a thing every single year, because there was just enough to do. I think even for people that are not into horror, there's things to do where you won't be as terrified, and there's genuinely scary moments where I think will affect more the hardcore crowd. Yeah, there's probably scary events out there, but this is definitely a good hodgepodge that can bring people together and get hyped for what Universal can do. And if they can extend this to other ideas like their freaking escape rooms and make this as immersive, my God, they have a goldmine of stuff. And seeing this in the theme industry makes me extremely excited for the company and how they're doing this after 30 years. I'm not sure how it compared to previous events, but it seems like they've been learning and refining the product more and more over time. So I don't know. I don't have that bias if things have been going downhill or if things have been going uphill. But to me, being a relative newcomer, heck yes, great event, great atmosphere, must do event every year, 9 out of 10. That's my final verdict.
Kurt?
Yeah, I think I would probably. Well, I've been to so. The problem is I've been to so many of these that you get kind of jaded over time. So it's hard to. It gets harder and harder to impress me every year because I've seen it
Yeah.
all, and so I kind of hate to do this, but I have to give it a little bit lower.
Okay.
I probably put this in like the 7 to 8 range.
Okay.
But that's only just because I've seen the stuff. You kind of get used to how the jump scares work and the various the way the houses are designed and stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of looking for what's next. They need to come up with something new, to impress me. I thought the scare zones were kind of lackluster this year. I mean, the couple of ones I did like, the two that we talked about that I did like. The rest of them I thought were kind of lackluster.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt, yeah, it's just I've kind of seen it too many, and I miss Bill and Ted.
That's an automatic point for you if it comes back.
Yeah, I can't help but bring that up. But yeah, I think you talk about like escape rooms and stuff. There kind of needs to be something to take this to the next level. I don't know how you do it with the volume of people that show up. I'd like to do something that isn't a conga line. I think that kind of I'm getting kind of tired of the conga lines, but I don't know how you do something that thousands of people can go through in a night.
Yeah.
That's kind of a real problem from a practicality point of view.
But you can
So
make.
I don't really know what to do about that. But I would like to see something, like the Legends Collide. That you think of like this Egyptian themed maze. I don't want to go through the conga line. I want to go through and explore that. Have it kind of be a combination, like an escape room where you have to go and find clues and stuff and accomplish tasks and things like that. Something more involving. I think would kind of be what's next.
You could vary up houses, like if I quickly, maybe kind of expand the concept of what Poseidon's Fury tried to do, just kind of like themed areas and tell a much larger experience. I know that. I mean, you have to be really on point with the timing and all that, but with their budget, they can make like something like a huge maze, maybe group vote or just something, and maybe there's diverging paths you can take if they really want to make. I know they need a lot more room for it, but it's possible and it's in the realm of possibility. So there's many things you can do with houses. I'm sure it's been done around the country. They just people have to go there, do the research, and bring all that to Universal Creative and make it happen. Anyway, Justin.
Here's my suggestion for what to do about the conga lines. You offer a certain amount of tickets for people to go through houses during the day. You can even upcharge it because you can go in as a group rather than a conga line. If you obviously go have to charge a lot more money. How much, I don't know. But if you can actually go through a house during a day and you charge like maybe say $200 and maybe you can actually even have that included with like a day ticket, then you allows people to go in as a party. I think that'd be at least one way. That way there'd be less people who'd be buying a ticket for the nightly festivities. Or at least they would have, if they go for the festivities, they wouldn't be going through the houses during the night. They'd be exploring everything else in the park.
The only disadvantage of that is the scare zones that you'll be missing out on, like other things at night. But that is an interesting idea.
It's at least an idea. My biggest, and I have to probably go with Kurt on this one because again, like we've seen everything for you. This is your first, so we don't blame you for having a high score. I would have to go with either. Yeah, well, you have a legit bias, we'll say. For me, it would have to be like a 6 or a 7 because again, my biggest problem was the motif was too kiddish. I mean, just to kind of give an example here. Now, here's, again, the shirt that had all the houses on it. Now, for starters, you'll notice that there's 2 missing. There's Hellblock and The Weeknd. They're not on here for whatever reason. So, for me, that kind of shows a bit of cheapness to it. But let's look at the ghoul here. Now, this little ghoul here, that's what's on the plaque that they're selling this year. Okay, so That's
Yep.
that's what they're going for. This was the plaque from last year.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got a killer doll, a killer monster, and a killer clown. This is more threatening. This, however, this screams Hobby Lobby.
It kind of
This
does, yeah.
it screams generic. A lot of people are saying, like, well, the motif is meant to be retro and vintage. I'm like, there's a fine line between retro and Hobby Lobby. That's my issue. And the weekend, you can argue that he got his own shirt. Like, okay, but still, there's more horror in this and even on the back
Oh yeah, that's a nice shirt.
than there was for this. It's too kid-ish. It's too kid-friendly. I mean, even the Pumpkin Lord, uh, like this at least says Hobby Lobby Plus. There's a bit more to it than this. I mean, heck, even on the shirt, he looks like a character you'd see at a Gwar concert, which is a very shock rock heavy band where they just kind of like decapitate celebrities and pop culture characters.
Sure.
It's very B grade. But again, my issue is that the motif was just too kid friendly. And I want to have fun as an adult. And this just screams Hobby Lobby. The fact that Hellblock isn't on the shirt to me says it's cheap. I mean, maybe it costs money to have the weekend on there, so maybe
Right.
that's why it's not. But
I'm sure that's a licensing issue.
yeah, but again, the fact that Hellblock is not even on here, the fact that every house is not on here, to me, it just says you're being cheap. And I know their artist, Andrew Stonecipher, puts a lot of work into this stuff, but in this instance, I don't think he was given a whole lot to work with. And I'm trying to be, understanding because of inflation, because of COVID. But when this was what you had last year and what you had this year, just screams Hobby Lobby, there's a bit of an issue. And not to mention that Sweet Treats scare zone.
That was pretty cheap.
Room. Yeah, you had all that room and you didn't do anything with it. And again, it was geared more toward kids. I mean, we've all said, kids may be where the money is, but that's why people go to Disney. Granted, hopefully less people will start going to Disney.
Oh, I agree.
But even then, Universal was supposed to be the edgy answer to Disney. And when they do this, it makes me worried that they're losing their edge.
Well, this is still the event still leagues and beyond what anything Disney can fart out, honestly. But
absolutely,
I understand where you're coming from. Also, credit to Kurt's shirt. Like, I love that shirt. I kind of want to buy it myself.
But I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just the side of financial times, but again, the fact that it was so kiddish to me is what really brought it down. So yeah, my score is somewhere between a 6 or 7.
I think we
but
could.
like I said, no one.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we could also say that based on what we talked about the houses, that I think the best Horror Nights is where like it's hard to find mini falls in every house, and it felt like an all-star lineup. And I think this is definitely very top heavy. I think the top 5 houses are pretty well and above the bottom 5, maybe. I mean, for me, it's different because it's my first time, and I found something enjoying all the houses, but Spirit of the Coven. But yeah, I noticed that you guys had trouble figuring out something positive or memorable to say about some of the other houses, which, again, could be a sign that Universal's done better, and they can get to better, and we should be excited for what 2023 comes, whenever that gets announced, which will probably be, summertime next year, something like that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we still, don't get us wrong, we still had fun. We just are seeing a bit of, this just wasn't their best, we'll say. For people who this was their first and they had fun, hey, we're thrilled that you did. We still look forward to Horror Nights, and let's just hope that next year they can deliver a bit better. So, and if you want them to, then make sure you fill out a feedback form. Okay, this is what's going to help them. They need this feedback. Every company does. And if you like what they do for next year, then be sure you vote with your wallet. Even if you don't like what they do next year, vote with your wallet. So, but as for our next episode, we're hoping what we can do is talk a little bit about some of the other horror attractions here in Florida. Daniel and I still need to get to them, which is the Howl of Scream at Busch Gardens and SeaWorld. And what's that, Kurt?
And they're both different.
Yeah.
And the other is this new one in Dade City called Screamageddon, where if they do have a waiver for them, if you'd like to be, if you're willing to give consent to have them physically touch you. So I'm hoping I can make it out to at least one of those. And hopefully Daniel can as well. But if not, then we'll have something else for you guys, for us to talk about. But until then, this is the Park Geeks signing out.